Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too.
I know people say stuff like this all the time, but I swear on everything I love. I've never experienced anything in my life that scared me the way that night did. And if I'm being honest, the part that still keeps me up isn't the danger itself. It's that I almost didn't notice it until it was way too damn close. My name is Rylan. I'm 27. And until this happened, I always thought of myself as a pretty calm, logical guy. I'm not paranoid. I'm not scared of the dark. I'm not the type to assume the worst about strangers. But that night at the 7-Eleven off Briar Ridge, just outside Redwood Falls, changed all that. Before I get into it, I should explain where my head was at, because this wasn't one of those I just walked into something creepy situations. This was one of those nights where all the wrong things were already lined up, and I just didn't see it yet. I had just gotten off a late workout at Iron Basin Fitness, the kind of gym that barely has AC and always smells like rubber mats and cheap protein powder. I usually go earlier, but that day I got stuck covering for a coworker. I do HVAC work, mostly repairing busted AC units in older apartments, so the schedule is unpredictable. I was tired, hungry, and honestly a little frustrated because my mom had asked me earlier that day if I could finally pay her back the $100 I'd borrowed during a slow month. She wasn't mad or anything. She never is. But that guilt sits on me. So when I stopped by Green Mart, the grocery store near the gym, I grabbed some basic stuff and used cash back to pull $140 out of my account. $100 for her, $40 for gas. I tucked the money into my wallet, double-checked it like I always do, and headed out to the parking lot. Now here's where my stupidity comes in. Instead of going home, like any normal tired adult would do, I decided to take the long way in my car. I had just bought a used manual transmission Subaru BRZ, and the novelty had not worn off. If anything, it made me look for excuses to drive. So I drove around the quieter side of town for maybe 30-40 minutes, let the windows down, played some old country rock stuff my dad used to blast on weekends, let my brain unwind. Around 11:10 p.m., my gas light flicked on. No biggie, I thought. The 7-Eleven on the edge of Redwood Falls was on the way home anyway, so I turned in, and that's where everything changed. The 7-Eleven sat on the corner of this half-industrial, half-abandoned business strip. A tire shop, a shuttered pet supply place, 2 empty lots, nothing around that anyone sane would hang out near at night. And at 11 p.m., yeah, empty. When I pulled in, I noticed something odd immediately. Not scary yet, just odd. There was an old bronze Chevy Tahoe parked in the far corner of the unlit lot right next to the gas station. No lights on, no movement, just sitting there, like it had been dropped off and forgotten. But I've seen weirder things. People sleep in their cars. People wait for someone. Whatever. I parked at pump 3, got out, swiped my card, and started fueling. It was quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear the electric hum of the overhead lights. Then, maybe 10 seconds into pumping gas, I saw movement from behind the side wall of the 7-Eleven. A woman stepped into the light, walking straight toward me, and every hair on my arm stood up before my brain could even figure out why. She was maybe mid-30s, thin but not frail, wearing a faded jean jacket and black leggings. Nothing unusual, but she moved with this strange intent, like she already knew exactly where she needed to be. Me. Her hands stayed deep in her pockets. Her head was tilted down slightly, but her eyes locked on me the whole walk. I reached behind me and hit the lock button on my car without even thinking about it. She got within maybe 15 feet and said, in this tired, raspy smoker's voice, "Hey, "Hey, can you help me? I need a ride. My boyfriend left me here." I swallowed. Sorry? What happened?" She repeated the sentence, word for word, same tone, same rhythm, like she was reading from a damn script. "I'm freezing. Can you drive me to my mom's place? It's not far. Come on, please." She stepped closer. Something felt wrong. Her makeup was smeared. Her lip had a sore on it that the foundation wasn't hiding, and her eyes, man, they looked hollow. Not sad, not panicked, just empty. I tried to stay polite. I gotta finish pumping first." She didn't even answer. She just walked around to the passenger door, tried the handle, and tugged. "Unlock it," she said. "I'm cold. Cold. At 60 degrees. In a jean jacket." Something in my brain screamed, "Nope." I pulled the pump out early, hung it back, and said, "I gotta go inside and pay. Hold up." She stared at me like she was analyzing if I was lying. Then she stepped back, not far, just enough to let me walk. Inside, the clerk was a younger guy on his phone, probably watching TikTok. I told him quietly, "Hey, that woman outside, she's acting weird, keeps trying to get in my car." He barely looked up. "Yeah, dude, people hang around here sometimes." I stared at him. "You're not gonna call someone?" He shrugged. "Not unless she steals something." I wanted to curse him out, but I didn't. I just went back outside, and that's when the SUV came to life. The Tahoe's headlights flickered on. Engine rumbled awake. It didn't pull out, didn't drive away, it just repositioned, inching forward until it sat perfectly lined up with the exit lane. Ready, waiting. My stomach dropped. The woman was already by my car again when she saw me. She walked toward me quickly. "You can open the door now, right? I'm freezing. I've been out here for hours." Her voice sharpened at the end like she was warning me. I shook my head. "No, look, I can't. I'm sorry, I gotta get home." "Come on," she said louder. "You said you'd help me." "I never said that," I snapped. She glanced at the SUV. A quick, nervous flick of her eyes. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't imagining anything. This wasn't some random distressed person. This was bait. I put my hand on my door handle. She stepped closer. "You're not leaving," she mumbled, almost like she was talking to herself. "It's cold. You're driving me." "Nah," I said, raising my voice. "Back up, right now." She stepped closer instead. So I shouted, "Back up now." She jerked backward like she wasn't expecting that. "You better get out of here," she said quickly, voice trembling not with fear, with irritation. She started walking fast, directly toward the SUV. That was it. Fight mode off, flight mode on. I jumped in my car, slammed the door, locked it, and peeled out of the lot so fast my tires squealed. I don't even know if the SUV followed at first. I blew through 2 empty intersections before turning into a random neighborhood and weaving through it like a lunatic. When I checked my rearview mirror, no headlights, no Tahoe, nothing. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the key trying to shut the car off when I finally pulled over. I called 911, told them everything. The dispatcher sighed like this wasn't new. "We'll send a car to check, sir, but since no crime was committed, there isn't much." "Yeah," I said bitterly. "I figured." I hung up. I sat there in the dark for a long moment, trying to breathe normally. Then a single thought hit me. If she had gotten into my car, I wouldn't be here telling this. I drove home, locked every door, sat on my couch, and just stared at the floor for a long time. The money in my wallet, the money for my mom, was still there. Thank God. But all I could think about was how close I came to losing something way more important. My life. I was 26 when I first started working at the 7-Eleven off Brookridge Avenue, a small, half-forgotten store sandwiched between a liquor shop and an abandoned laundromat. I took the job out of necessity more than anything. My kids, Jolene and Tyler, had both started school by then, and every month felt like I was juggling overdue bills and late fees I could never quite outrun. My husband at the time, Cole, worked construction, but winter jobs slowed down and the paychecks got thinner. So I stepped up. I'd never really worked anywhere before, not full-time, not like this, dealing with strangers all day. But the job wasn't bad. Busy enough to make the time pass, quiet enough to keep me sane. The morning shift was usually shared with my manager, Rex, a stocky 50-something guy who drank Diet Dr. Pepper like it was water and told terrible dad jokes. But that Tuesday, he texted me at 6:03 a.m. "Morning, kiddo. Sick as hell. Can you handle shift solo?" "Yeah, I got it," I texted back. I didn't love being alone, but I'd done it before, and honestly, I needed the hours. By 10:15 a.m., the store was steady with traffic. Most of our customers were folks from the 3 warehouses across the road. You could always tell their shifts by the surge of steel-toed boots, reflective vests, and the sound of forklifts beeping from across the lot. Nothing unusual, nothing weird, until he showed up. A long-haul truck rolled into the side lot, a massive dust-covered Freightliner with faded blue paint and no company logo. I remember thinking it looked like a truck that had been driven across the country and back without anyone bothering to wash it even once. The driver stepped out, tall, maybe 6'4", lean but wiry, beard trimmed but patchy in places, like he didn't care too much about appearances. Something about him felt off. Not bad hygiene, not threatening at first glance. Just a kind of quiet, wandering gaze, like he was taking mental notes of everything around him. He walked in carrying a giant stainless steel refill mug, the kind of mug truckers practically live out of. "Morning," he said, voice low, slightly scratchy. Southern, but I couldn't place where. Arkansas, maybe? Mississippi? Somewhere rural. "Morning," I replied. "Coffee's fresh. Just brewed it like 15 minutes ago." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Perfect." He went to fill his mug, humming some tune I didn't recognize. When he walked to the counter, he leaned just a little too close, his elbows resting on the sticky front ledge. "That'll be $1.19, I said. He dug into his pockets, pulling out a handful of crumpled bills. "You folks always this busy?" he asked, eyes flicking toward the warehouse crowd outside. "Pretty much, especially on shift changes." "That right," he said slowly. He slid the money across the counter almost too softly. "Hey, you know how to get to Redfern Packaging from here?" "Sure, it's like 2 blocks up, then take a left. Big white building with the loading docks facing west. You can't miss it." He nodded like he was memorizing it piece by piece. "Appreciate it." A pause. "Where's the restroom?" "Back left corner, past the coolers." He didn't move. Instead, he stared at me, that same hollow half smile on his face. "You working alone today?" That hit me like a flick to the back of the skull. No stranger needed to know that. "No," I said, steady in my voice. "My coworker just stepped out to handle something. He'll be back any minute." "Huh," he murmured. "Didn't see nobody else's car outside." I shrugged. He walked. He didn't buy it. I could tell. His eyes shifted past me, scanning the store again, lingering on the aisles, the backroom door, the tiny hallway behind the counter. But he eventually said, "Restroom, right, back corner." "Yep." Still, he didn't go. Instead, he leaned on the counter with one forearm and stared at my name tag. Sky. I hate when grown men say my name like that, slow, like they're tasting it. "You from around here?" he asked. "Born and raised," I answered, keeping my tone neutral. "That's so. What's it like?" "Quiet," I said. "Most folks keep to themselves." He smirked again, but this time I saw something sharper in it. "Quiet's good," he said. "Real good." Only then did he finally walk toward the restroom, except he stopped halfway, turned around, and asked again. "Restrooms where?" I pointed. Again. "Right, right," he muttered, but he didn't go in. He wandered the aisles instead, pretending to look at beef jerky, energy shots, and winter gloves. Customers came and went, and each time someone walked through the door, he drifted behind a shelf, peeking around end caps like he didn't want to be seen. Every instinct in my body turned cold. I'd dealt with creeps before, drunk guys, truckers who flirted too much, weird teens shoplifting energy drinks, but this was different. This guy wasn't being annoying. He was waiting, watching, timing something. I kept my face neutral, but my heart was practically thudding out of my chest. Then the bell above the door dinged, and someone walked in who saved my life without even knowing it at first. A warehouse guy, wearing an orange vest, covered in dust. Looked exhausted, probably on break. He grabbed a Gatorade and a pack of gum. His name, I later learned, was Paxton. When he walked up to the counter, I felt something desperate rise inside me. "Hey," I said too brightly. "How's it going?" He blinked at me. Good. You okay?" I widened my eyes in a really obvious silent plea. But he didn't get it. Not until he glanced toward aisle 3 and saw the trucker duck his head behind the chips. Paxton looked back at me. I mouthed, "Help me." His expression changed instantly. He set the Gatorade down, stepped back, cracked his neck, and walked right around the chip aisle. I lost sight of him, but I heard the impact. A heavy thud, followed by Paxton shouting, "Hey, the lady said you need to get the hell out of here." Then a crash, the sound of someone slamming into the cooler door so hard the bottles inside rattled. The trucker bolted, sprinting through the front door so fast it smacked the wall. He leaped into his truck, engine roaring like a beast, and tore out of the lot, tires squealing. My hands were shaking violently as Paxton came back around the aisle. "You good?" he asked. His voice wasn't gentle, more urgent, protective. "No," I whispered. "No, I'm not okay." "Call 911, he said. "I'll stay right here." And he did. Stayed right next to me the whole time as I made the call, voice trembling so hard I could barely spell my own name. The cops arrived fast. I gave them everything I could remember: the truck, the mug, the clothes, the unsettling smile, the way he kept asking if I was alone. Paxton gave his statement too. A co-worker of mine, Jenna, rushed over to take the rest of my shift. I stepped outside to breathe, shaking like my body didn't know it was safe yet. An hour later, one of the officers returned. He walked in with a face that told me everything before he said a word. "We caught him," the cop said, removing his sunglasses. "He was speeding on the interstate heading out of town." My stomach dropped, but then the officer said something that made my skin crawl. He never went to Redfern Packaging. The trailer was empty, meaning he lied about the delivery. I felt my throat close up. "And that's not all," the officer continued. "He had a stolen pistol under the seat, stolen out of Alabama. And he's a registered offender, recently released. He's wanted in Missouri for violating parole." The store felt suddenly too small, too bright, too cold. I thought about every minute he spent walking around the aisles, pretending not to know where the restroom was, asking if I was alone, watching me, waiting. Waiting for what? The officer didn't say it, but I knew. If Paxton hadn't walked in at that exact moment. I don't let my brain finish the sentence. The cop left. Paxton stopped by before going back to work, just to check on me. I hugged him without thinking. That night I held my kids so tight they complained. But I didn't care. I never worked another solo shift again. And to this day, whenever I see a long-haul truck pull into a quiet store's parking lot, my heart stutters, because I know now, some people aren't stopping for coffee. They're stopping for opportunity. And sometimes, they're waiting for the moment you're finally, helplessly, alone. I've never been the kind of person who scares easy. Growing up in rural Montana teaches you that strange noises, dark highways, and weird loners exist everywhere. But nothing prepared me for what happened that night, on a lonely road outside a town I had never even heard of before. My name's Ryland Cole. I'm 29 now, but this happened when I was 25, right after I moved to Colorado for work. A few months after settling in, my dad called and told me my mom was going in for a minor surgery. Nothing dangerous, but I wanted to be there. My folks lived 7.5 hours away, and I figured if I left after work and grabbed a couple of coffees along the way, I'd make it by midnight. It was supposed to be routine, just a solo drive, just like I'd done twice before. But that night turned into something else, something I still don't like talking about. The start of the night, I left work around 4:30 p.m., 2 hours early, feeling good about the jump start. I grabbed a burger, filled my tank, queued up a playlist, and hit the interstate. The first few hours passed easy. Wide open road, sun setting behind the mountains, that kind of peaceful vibe you only get when you're alone with long road ahead. But around 9 p.m., the fatigue hit me hard. My eyes felt heavy, my shoulders tight, that sluggish, slow blink exhaustion. And of course, my fuel gauge slipped down close to empty. Damn it, I muttered. Perfect timing. I took the next exit toward a small service road with nothing but farmland on both sides. After maybe a mile, I spotted a 7-Eleven sitting alone under a buzzing fluorescent sign. You know those stores that look clean in the daytime but creepy as hell at night? Yeah, this was one of those. The man by the ice cooler. I pulled up to pump 3. Nobody else was around, not on the lot, not on the road. Right as I stepped out, I saw him, a guy standing near the side of the building, half hidden by the large metal ice coolers. He wasn't smoking, he wasn't on the phone, he wasn't waiting for a ride. He was just standing there, motionless, facing my direction, eyes locked on me. He looked mid-40s, long hair tied back, baggy carpentry pants, dark hoodie. His face was stiff, almost blank. I tried not to stare. People hang around gas stations all the time. Maybe he worked there. Maybe he was picking someone up. But something about him cracked my nerves. He didn't look cold. He didn't look bored. He looked intentional, like he was watching. I finished fueling fast, then started toward the store. When I walked past that side of the building, I didn't look directly at him, but I could feel, literally feel, his eyes shift and follow me. Inside, the air smelled like burnt taquitos and freezer coolant. The cashier, a short woman with tired eyes, didn't even look up. I grabbed a monster from the fridge and walked to the counter. "Long night, huh?" I said, trying to sound casual. She scanned the can and sighed. "I'm out of here in 20 minutes, thank God." "Quiet night?" "Too quiet," she muttered. "I hate when it's this dead." Dead. The word stuck with me. I tapped my card and took the drink. Before leaving, I hesitated. "Hey, that guy outside on the side of the building, he one of your regulars?" She frowned. "What guy?" "He's right out by the ice coolers." She leaned to the side to see through the window. "I don't see anyone." "Well, he was there a minute ago." "Probably some drifter," she said. "We get 'em sometimes." But she didn't sound sure. The approach, I walked back out, drink in hand, scanning the shadows. The man wasn't by the coolers anymore. But then, as I reached my car door, I saw him again. He was walking toward me, fast, like he had already been halfway across the lot before I even noticed. My stomach dropped. This wasn't some casual stroll. He was headed straight for me with purpose. I jumped into my car and locked the door. He was maybe 30 feet away, then 25, then 20. His pace got quicker, almost a run. "Hell no," I whispered, starting the engine. My headlights hit him just long enough for me to see his face clearly, blank, emotionless, like someone wearing a mask of skin. I floored it backward, swung around, and shot out of the lot. In the mirror, I saw the man pivot and sprint full speed toward the back of the lot, toward an old cranberry-colored sedan parked under a dead street light. The follow, I turned onto the service road, heart hammering, hands shaking. Don't follow, don't follow, don't fall. Headlights appeared in the mirror. Same old red sedan. Engine roaring, closing in fast. Shit. I merged back onto the interstate, hoping speed and traffic would lose him. But he matched everything I did. If I changed lanes, he changed lanes. If I slowed down, he slowed down. If I sped up, he crawled right onto my bumper. Not tailgating, hunting. I tried calling 911, but the signal kept dropping. Dead zone, of course. Come on, I yelled at my phone. Stay connected. No luck. The road was eerily empty for a Friday night. A truck or two passed occasionally, but nothing that stayed near me long enough to help. The guy didn't try to ram me or force me off. No hand gestures, no headlights flashing. He just stayed there, one car length behind me, precise, unwavering, like he had practiced this. I spotted an exit sign I didn't recognize, Stonebrook Ridge, and made a split-second decision. I turned off sharply, nearly clipping the guardrail. He followed instantly. No hesitation. I took another random turn. He followed. A third. He stayed on me. My breathing got shallow. What the hell do you want? I drove through a small town. Quiet, dim streetlights, closed diners, old brick buildings, American flags on poles. The kind of place that looked safe but felt ghostly at night. Every corner I took, every stop sign I rolled through. He kept coming. His headlights never left my rearview mirror. After almost 10 minutes of trying to lose him, my mind was spinning. Then I saw it. A small building with a bright blue sign glowing above it. Stonebrook Police Department. I didn't think. Didn't hesitate. I put on my turn signal and pulled into the lot. At first, the red sedan signaled as well. For one horrifying second, I thought he was going to follow me in. But at the last moment, he jerked his wheel, sped past the entrance, and disappeared down the road. Just tore off into the darkness like nothing happened. I sat there shaking, hands tight on the wheel. An officer walking out of the building noticed me. "You okay there?" he called out. I stepped out, legs wobbling. "Sir," I said, voice cracking, "someone just followed me from the highway. I think he was trying to... I don't know, but he chased me for miles." The officer frowned. "Start from the top." I told him everything, every detail. The guy near the coolers, the aggressive walk, the car, the perfect following distance, all of it. He listened, arms crossed, jaw tight. "We'll check the cameras at that 7-Eleven, and I'll radio the highway units. But you did the right thing coming here." "Why would someone do that?" I asked. His answer was simple. "Some people don't need a reason." After 20 minutes of paperwork and reassurance, the officer told me I was free to go. He offered to have a patrol follow me to the interstate, but I said I'd be fine. I wasn't fine. Every car behind me made my chest tighten. Every shadow felt like a trap, every headlight in the distance. I expected them to swing in behind me, but nobody did. I made it home around midnight. My mom hugged me like nothing was wrong. My dad asked if I'd hit traffic. I didn't tell him. Didn't want to freak him out. But that night, lying in my old childhood room, I couldn't stop thinking, what if I hadn't pulled into that police station? What did that man want? Why follow a random stranger across miles of empty road? Why stop only when I reached the police? I still have no answers. Sometimes on late drives, I still check my mirror, expecting to see old red headlights hugging my bumper. But I never saw that man or that car again. And I hope to God I never do. I never thought a minimum wage job would leave me with memories that still hit me like a cold punch in the chest whenever I drive past a convenience store at night. Before everything happened, my life felt like it was finally stabilizing. I was 24, juggling my last semester at community college while working the overnight shift at a 7-Eleven in a small town off Interstate 47 in Colorado. I wasn't living some glamorous life, but it was quiet, predictable, and honestly, peaceful. My name is Leora. My friends call me Leo. And back then, I actually liked working nights. It was slow. The customers were mostly truckers, college kids on donut runs, and the occasional drunk guy asking where the bathroom was. I'd sit behind the counter, doing homework, watching TikToks, or just zoning out with the humming of the freezer cooler behind me. But the reason I chose nights wasn't just about convenience. Back in high school, I dealt with a lot. Bad breakup, bad home life, anxiety so heavy I felt like I was walking underwater. Night shifts gave me quiet, gave me room to breathe. They made me feel safe in a weird way. A locked store, bright fluorescent lights, cameras, a routine. I trusted the routine. If only I knew how quickly safety can shatter. It was early March, the kind of night where the wind slaps hard against the windows. I remember because the lights above the gas pumps kept flickering every few minutes, buzzing like angry bees. It was 2:07 a.m. when the bell above the door chimed. I didn't see a car pull in. That instantly felt strange. We were too far from any neighborhoods for walk-ins. The guy who stepped in looked off. Not dirty, not homeless, just off. Tall, thin, pale, balding hairline, eyes too wide for someone sober. He walked straight up to the counter. "Hey," I said, given the polite customer service smile I'd perfected. "How can I help you?" He didn't smile, didn't blink, just looked at me like he was trying to memorize every detail of my face. Finally, he asked, "Where's your beer at?" "Back wall," I said, pointing. "Right under the red signage." He nodded slowly, like he had to think the motion through. Then he wandered to the back. Something about his walk made me uncomfortable. Uneven steps, like he couldn't decide where his feet should land. I tried to brush it off. People are weird. That's just part of the job. But when he came back, he wasn't holding beer. Instead, he pointed at my arm tattoos. "These are really nice," he said quietly. Thanks," I said. "Appreciate it." He kept staring, for a moment too long. Then he just walked out. No purchase, no goodbye. I figured that was the end of it. I was wrong. Around 3 a.m., I was scrolling on my phone when something pressed against the front glass. I looked up and froze. The guy. His face was smashed against the window, cheek and nose flattened, staring directly at me. He didn't move, didn't blink, didn't smile, just stared. A chill crawled down my spine. "Dude, what the hell?" I whispered. I ignored him at first, hoping he'd go away. He didn't. After about a minute, a sharp tap 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 hit the glass. He was knocking, not urgently, more like testing the sound. I got up, walked to the entrance, cracked the door open just an inch and said, "Sir, you can't do that. You need to leave the property." The moment I opened the door, he sprinted, bolted across the parking lot and disappeared into the darkness. I locked the door, heart pounding. But the night went quiet again, and I convinced myself that maybe he was just high, or maybe mentally unstable, and that was that. I had no idea how far from the truth I was. 2 days went by with no sign of him. Then my friends and I were at our usual diner, Raylene's, a warm little family-owned place where the coffee tastes like burnt batteries, but the pancakes taste like heaven. I was sitting in a booth with my friends Jonas and Maribel, laughing about some dumb TikTok filter, when Maribel leaned in and whispered, "Don't look now, but that guy behind you is staring at you like you owe him money." I turned casually. My stomach dropped. It was him, sitting alone in a corner booth. No food, no drink, just staring. "What the hell?" I muttered. Jonas shifted in his seat. "Is that the window creeper dude from your work?" "Yeah," I whispered. "Want me to go talk to him?" Jonas asked, already cracking his knuckles. "No, God no. Let's just ignore him." We tried, but the whole time I felt his eyes burning holes in my back. When we left, he didn't follow, didn't say anything, but he watched me walk out. That was enough to put a pit in my stomach. 3 days later, everything escalated. I was finishing a shift. My coworker Alex came in early like he always did. He was in his 30s, funny, dependable, and the kind of guy who brought donuts just because. He walked in and said, "Yo, Leo, I think someone's messing with your car." I rushed to the window, and my chest tightened. The man was crouched beside my driver's side door, using some kind of tool to pry the window. "What the hell is he doing?" I snapped. I ran outside, adrenaline overriding fear. "Hey!" I shouted. "Back away from my car." He jerked his head up. Our eyes met. Then he ran, not just ran, launched into a sprint like a deer spooked by headlights. Down the street, into the dark, gone. I checked my car. He hadn't gotten in, but the window frame had fresh scratches. Police came, took a report, did nothing more. I should have quit that night. But life isn't that simple. Bills weren't going to pay themselves. The last night, my last encounter with him still replays in my nightmares like a movie stuck on loop. It was a Monday, 2:30 a.m., quiet, calm. I was restocking the coffee station when the chime above the front door rang softly. I froze. He walked in. But this time, something was different. His clothes were cleaner, his posture straighter, his face calm, like he'd prepared for this moment. He stepped forward and said, "Why weren't you at the diner tonight?" My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't answer. He took one more step. "I waited for you." "Sir, I'm calling the police," I said, reaching for my phone. He tilted his head. "You don't need to do that. I just want to talk. You're the only one who looks at me like I'm not invisible." "I need you to leave," I said firmly. "Right now." He smiled. A slow, unsettling smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I've been watching you," he said softly. "You're perfect." That broke me. I booked it behind the counter and slammed the emergency lock. He lunged, slamming into the plexiglass barrier, palms pressed flat, breathing hard against it. "Let me talk to you," he yelled. "Get out," I screamed. He pounded once, twice, then suddenly turned and bolted out the door, disappearing again into the night. Police came. Again and again, nothing happened. I quit the following month. But the story didn't end there. Aftermath. Weeks after leaving 7-Eleven, I kept expecting to see him. When I walked to my car, when I opened my apartment door, when I glanced out my window at night. The paranoia stuck. The fear stayed. The idea that someone could just decide you were theirs was a new kind of terror. But the man never appeared again. No more windows. No more diners. No more parking lots. Just silence. A silence I was grateful for. But to this day, I still don't like being alone in bright, empty spaces, especially ones with big glass windows facing the dark. Because every time I stand in one, every time I feel watched, my mind goes back to that night where he said, "You're the only one who looks at me." And I pray I never see him again. I never used to get spooked at gas stations. Working late shifts for most of my 20s kinda kills that fear. Or at least I always thought so. But life has this way of showing you exactly where your confidence ends. My name's Riley Dorn, and before the night I'm about to tell you about, I used to believe that all those creepy late-night encounters people talked about online were exaggerated as hell. I'd shrug them off with a smile, thinking, man, some folks just scare too easy. But the truth is, nobody's ready until it's happening to them. Before that night, I'd spent the whole weekend visiting my childhood friend Noah in a small Texas town. We hadn't seen each other in almost a year, and one nostalgic conversation after another kept me there till nearly midnight. By the time I hit the highway for my 3-hour drive home, I was already tired, but feeling okay. I had an energy drink, a playlist, and the kind of mood that makes empty highways feel peaceful. But 2 hours later, around 2:47 a.m., peace ran out. Same time my gas did. The low fuel light blinked at me like a warning I deserved. "Seriously?" I muttered. "Come on, Riley, you're better than this." But I wasn't. A sign on the road promised a 7-Eleven off the next exit, and I swear I felt this wave of relief wash over me. 7-Eleven is like comfort food for road trippers. Bright lights, open doors, familiar layouts, no surprises, no weird quiet corners, just gas, snacks, and people who mind their business, at least, usually. As I rolled into the lot, I noticed right away that something was off. The station sat quietly under buzzing fluorescent lights. Too quiet, even for 3 a.m. in the middle of nowhere. There was one pickup truck fueling on the far side, and one person standing outside near the edge of the building. Nobody else. The guy by the wall was slouched, hands in his hoodie pocket, head low, foot tapping against the concrete like he was bored or impatient or, I don't know, irritated. I didn't like the look of him, but I told myself not to be dramatic. I pulled up to a pump on the opposite side, not super close, but not suspiciously far either. Just normal. I got out, slid my card into the reader, and started fueling. The cold air hit my face, and I exhaled sharply. I'd been yawning for the last 30 minutes. Everything was quiet except for the soft click-click of the gas pump and some muffled music from the pickup truck guy's window. Then the driver of the truck finished fueling and drove off, and that's when things changed. Because the moment he left, the guy by the building, the slouched one, moved. Slowly. Too slowly. His head lifted like it weighed 100 pounds, and he locked eyes with me from across the pumps. Something about his stare made my chest tighten. Not because he looked angry or sad or drunk, but because there was nothing behind it. No expression, no purpose, just empty. He took a step toward me, then another. Don't make assumptions, I thought. Maybe he's going to the pump behind me. But he wasn't. He kept walking, straight toward me, hands still shoved in his hoodie like he didn't care about looking threatening. By the time he reached my side of the island, I was already tense. My shoulders stiffened, and my hand drifted toward my car door without actually grabbing it. He stopped just a few feet away, close enough to talk, close enough to do something stupid. "Hey," he said. His voice sounded tired, like he'd smoked 6 packs in one night. Hey," I replied cautiously. "You got a smoke I could get?" he asked, eyes flicking to my car, and then back to me. "No, sorry, I don't smoke," I said. He stared at me for a second, not blinking, just staring. It felt like he was trying to decide whether I was lying. Then he looked at the gas pump next to me, the big red warning signs. "No smoking. Explosion hazard." "Nah," he muttered to himself. "Figured you didn't." He kept standing there. Too long, way too long. "Anything else you need?" I asked, trying not to sound rude. He didn't answer, just turned and walked away, but not toward the store. He wandered back across the pumps like he wasn't sure where he wanted to be. I let out a shaky breath and tried to calm down. "Dude just wanted a cigarette," I whispered to myself. "Chill out," but something inside me stayed tight, like a rubber band stretched too far. I watched him out of the corner of my eye while the pump kept running. He paced around one of the other fuel dispensers, looking down at the ground like he'd lost something. His movements were sudden, jerky. Then without warning, he spun and punched the pump. Hard. "Jesus!" I flinched. He hit it again, and again. Bang, bang. The metal echoed across the empty lot. I backed up a step instinctively. My heart was pounding now. This wasn't normal. This wasn't just some tired guy asking for a smoke. This guy was off. Then he shouted something, I couldn't tell what, and kicked the concrete base of the pump. That's when he looked back at me and smiled. Not a friendly smile, a twitchy, uneven one, like he wanted me to see he wasn't in control. "Hey," he yelled. I didn't respond. He walked toward the side of the building again, only this time he crouched down by the landscape and rocks. My stomach dropped. "Oh, hell no," I whispered. He grabbed a rock, then another. Then he stood. "Hey!" he screamed again, and with a sudden jerk of his arm, he threw a rock straight toward me. It hit the pavement a few feet away. "What the hell is your problem?" I shouted, backing up toward my car. He grabbed another rock, threw it harder. This one whizzed past my leg and clacked against the metal of my car door. "Dude, stop!" I yelled, panicked now. He kept coming, fast, rock in hand. I didn't even try to continue fueling. I slammed the handle off, scrambled into my car, and yanked the door shut. Another rock hit the rear of my car. Clang. Just as I started the engine, I didn't look back at him. I floored it, tires skidding slightly on the pavement. My heart punched against my ribs as the 7-Eleven vanished behind me in the rear-view mirror. Once I hit the highway, my hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone when I called the police. 911, what's your emergency? There's a guy at the 7-Eleven off Highway 55. He's throwing rocks at customers. He punched the gas pumps. He's unstable. I don't know what's wrong with him, but he's gonna hurt someone. Please send someone. The operator asked a few questions. I answered them as best I could. They assured me an officer would respond. But even after I hung up, even after I reached home and locked my door and tried to breathe normally again, I couldn't shake the image of that empty stare, or the way he smiled before throwing the first rock, or how the whole lot felt like the world had emptied out except for me and him. I don't know what was wrong with him. Drugs, maybe. A mental break. Something darker. But I do know this. Every time I pass a 7-Eleven at night now, even if I'm not stopping, I feel that same tightening in my chest. The memory doesn't fade, and I doubt it ever will. I was 10 years old the summer everything changed for me. The summer that made my parents stop letting me walk anywhere alone for years. We were living in a quieter part of Redwood Falls back then, a mid-sized city in the Midwest where every block looked the same, where the cicadas were loud enough to drown your thoughts, and where nothing that bad was supposed to happen. My parents were always working, and since I had a bunch of older siblings, I pretty much went everywhere with one of them. That year I stuck around with my older sister Harlow more than anyone. She was 14, always acting too grown, but she treated me better than the others. She bought me candy sometimes, let me hold her phone when she wasn't using it, and never complained when Mom told her to take me somewhere. Every summer, our neighborhood did the same routine. Walk to Redwood Plaza, stop by the laundromat for change, then hit the 7-Eleven for Slurpees. And every July 11th, they gave out free small Slurpees, which in my head felt like Christmas if Christmas happened in a humid parking lot that smelled like gasoline and asphalt. That day was July 11th, obviously, sometime around 4:30 in the afternoon. The heat was stupid, like the kind that made everything shimmer. Mom was asleep before her night shift. Dad wasn't home. My siblings were half playing, half fighting over the TV as usual. Harlow was tying her shoes near the front door when she said, "Yo, you want a free Slurpee or not?" Like she even needed to ask. I popped up off the couch so fast the remote fell. Yeah, let me grab my shoes." She rolled her eyes like always. "Hurry up, dude, before the whole town gets there." We started walking down our usual sidewalk route, across Redwood Street, past the closed-down video store with graffiti on the metal shutters, then the alley shortcut that always smelled like trash and somebody's cheap cologne. The sun was low enough to feel orange but still hot. I was dripping sweat before we even crossed the first intersection. Halfway there, Harlow nudged me with her elbow. "You better not spill your Slurpee today. Last time you got it all over your shirt and cried like a baby." I smacked her arm. "I didn't cry, it was cold." She laughed. "Bruh, you cried so hard you hiccuped for like 20 minutes. But she was smiling, not teasing for real. That was just how she talked. When we got closer to the plaza, the first thing I noticed was how full the parking lot was. Cars everywhere, people walking in and out with Slurpees, music blasting from someone's truck. It felt normal, loud, hot, crowded. A typical 7-Eleven on free Slurpee day. We pushed open the door, and that wave of AC hit like heaven. "Go get your flavor," Harlow said, already walking toward the drinks aisle. The Slurpee machine was packed, but I squeezed in when there was a gap. When I finally filled my cup, I turned around and couldn't see Harlow anymore. I figured she was in the snack aisle, probably pretending to just look at chips she had no money for. That's when all this started. The woman and the dog. I walked down the chips aisle, then the candy aisle, then the freezer section, but didn't see Harlow anywhere. I figured she'd pop up eventually. I paused at the aisle with the beef jerky, because back then I thought jerky was the coolest food on earth. I was staring at all the brands when I heard a voice. "Sweet dog, isn't he?" I looked up and saw a woman in a faded yellow tank top holding the tiniest dog I'd ever seen. It looked like one of those Pomeranian mixes, just a fluffy ball with huge eyes. "He's cute," I said, because he was. The woman smiled. Something about her smile felt stretched, like she was trying too hard. But I was a kid. I didn't think of stuff like that. "His name's Noodle," she said, adjusting him in her arms. "Do you want to hold him for a sec? I just need to run to the bathroom." I shook my head. "I can't hold dogs. They get scared sometimes." Her smile flickered, then came back. "That's okay, sweetheart. You don't gotta hold him. You can just watch him for me outside. He likes the grass. I don't want him peeing in the store. They get on me about that." Outside wasn't far. It was literally 10 steps from the door to the little strip of grass. And I was a kid who didn't know people lied like breathing. So I said, "Okay, I can watch him." Her eyes softened in this weird, relieved way. "You're an angel," she said. "Come on, it'll only take a minute." She walked toward the door, gesturing for me to follow. I looked around one more time for my sister. Didn't see her. So I followed. The door chimed as we stepped outside. The humid air hit me again. There was a white van parked at the end of the row. Not old, but not new either. Clean in a way that felt wrong. No stickers, no dents, no windows on the sides. A man was standing near the open side door. He was wearing a dark baseball cap, arms inked up, and he was pretending to mess with something inside the van. The woman walked ahead of me, stepping toward the grassy patch. But when I got close to the van, everything changed in half a second. The guy turned around, grabbed both my arms, and yanked me toward the open door so fast my Slurpee slipped right out of my hand. I froze. For a moment, my brain didn't even understand what was happening. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I just felt pure static in my body. The woman suddenly wasn't smiling. She wasn't anything. Her face looked dead. She pointed at the open van. "Get in, now." Her voice was flat. Not angry, not panicked, just rehearsed. The guy squeezed my arms harder. "Don't fight, kid. Just get in." My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear him. My feet scraped on the pavement as he pushed me. I don't know what would have happened, because that's when I heard it. "Hey, let him go!" It was Harlow. My sister's voice cracked through the entire parking lot like a thunderclap. She wasn't just yelling, she was screaming, like her soul broke open. "Let go of my brother!" Two people near the red box machine turned immediately. A man by the air pump snapped his head over. Another lady dropped her water bottle. Everything froze for 1 second. The man gripping me flinched. The woman's mask-like expression shattered. The guy hissed, "Shit, get in the van, now!" He shoved me, but my foot hit the metal edge and I fell sideways, hitting the ground. Harlow was running toward us, full speed. The man cursed again, jumped inside. The woman sprinted to the passenger side. The van door started sliding shut. Someone yelled, "Get the plate!" Another voice, "Call the cops!" The engine roared. I scrambled backward, scraping my hands on the pavement. My Slurpee was splattered all over the concrete like blood-colored snow. Harlow reached me, grabbed my arm, and yanked me away from the van as it peeled out so fast the tires screamed. The wind from the speed pushed my shirt back, and then it was gone. Harlow pulled me into her arms so tight it hurt. She kept saying, oh my God, holy crap." I thought, "Dude, I thought..." Her voice was shaking so bad, I thought she might pass out. People crowded around us. Someone ran inside to get the cashier. Another person was already on their phone with 911. I just sat there on the hot concrete, shaking, feeling like I was underwater. I remember the smell of my melted Slurpee mixing with gasoline. I remember my knees burning from the pavement. I remember Harlow's arms around me, her hands trembling. When the police arrived, everything felt unreal, like watching a show. Mom showed up crying. Dad showed up furious. Harlow wouldn't let go of my hand. The cops took statements. People gave plate numbers. Only one person got it right. By 11 p.m., they found the van. By midnight, they had the man and woman, human trafficking. 3 kids rescued from another location that same night. I was almost number 4. Years later, I'm older now, not a kid, not easily scared. But every time I pass a 7-Eleven, I still feel my chest tighten. Every time I see a white van, my stomach knots up. Every time someone smiles too hard at me, I remember that woman's stretched fake grin. I think about that day more than I should. But the part that sticks with me most, the part that always hits hardest, isn't the grab or the shove or the open door of that van. It's Harlow's scream. The way she didn't hesitate, the way she didn't freeze, the way her voice shook the whole world for a second, the way it saved my life. Sometimes I still hear it in my head, echoing through that humid July afternoon. And every time I do, everything in me whispers, I almost didn't come home that day. I never thought a minimum wage job would end up being the thing that stuck to my memory like a scar. But life has a way of throwing curveballs at you when you least expect it. Back when I was around 21, money was tight as hell for me. I was juggling community college classes in the mornings, doing DoorDash in the evenings, and still somehow struggling to scrape together rent for the tiny room I shared with my cousin on the south side of Riverton, Colorado. It was one of those towns people often pass while traveling but rarely think about. A mix of old brick buildings, a few strip malls, and long stretches of open land. Summer had ended, and the evenings were starting to get chilly. I needed a stable paycheck, and that's how I ended up taking the graveyard shift at the 7-Eleven on Birchwood Avenue. People joked about night shifts being weird, but honestly, I didn't think much of it. I needed the cash. That was it. My manager, Raina, was a sharp-talking woman in her 30s with tattoos crawling up both arms. She always said the same thing whenever she scheduled me. Night shift ain't for everyone, Jaden, but you got a good head on your shoulders. Just don't do anything dumb, okay? I'd laugh, shrug, and say, Raina, I'm broke, not stupid. But the truth, I had no clue what I was signing up for. The shift that started like any other. It was a Friday night in early October. Cold air, faint smell of burnt leaves, and that strange mix of loneliness and calm that only late-night towns have. My shift was from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 8 long hours of coffee machines humming and fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. My coworker Kelvin usually covered the first 4 hours with me, but he had quit a week earlier after a drunk guy vomited on the counter and tried to apologize by hugging him. Kelvin said, "Man, I'm done with this demonic Walmart energy," and never came back. So it was just me, alone. I unlocked the glass door with my employee key, stepped inside, and breathed in that familiar scent: coffee, cleaning spray, and a faint undertone of microwaved burritos. Inside the store, everything was quiet. The hum of the refrigerators in the back, the flicker of the fluorescent light above the chips aisle, and the distant sound of cars passing on the main road. I did my usual routine: stocked the pastries, took out the trash, refilled the hot dog rollers, checked the cash register, and texted Raina a picture of the front counter like she asked every shift. "Proof you're alive," she always said. Around 11:45 p.m., the store was dead silent. Only 2 customers had come in since I clocked in: an old man buying scratch-offs and a girl in pajamas grabbing late-night snacks. Everything felt normal, but there was something I hadn't noticed yet: the white SUV. It was parked across the lot, engine off, headlights dark, just sitting there, watching. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I wish I had. A stranger walks in. It was close to 12:20 a.m. when the door chimed. I glanced up. A man walked in, tall, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, wearing a thick jacket that looked several sizes too big. His beard was messy, his eyes half hidden under a wrinkled baseball cap. He didn't walk like a normal customer. He moved slowly, deliberately. His boots made a dull thump with each step. "Evening," I said, trying to sound normal. He didn't respond. He just stared, straight at me. Then finally he said in a low voice, "Cold night, isn't it?" His tone was off, too calm, too rehearsed. "Yeah," I replied, forcing a smile. "Colorado weather's bipolar. 1 minute fall, next minute snowstorm." The man chuckled softly, but not like a person amused, more like a person trying to imitate amusement. He walked toward the back of the store. I heard him pacing between aisles, picking things up, setting them back down. But something felt wrong. No one browses like that at midnight. After a minute, he walked back to the counter holding a bottle of water and a pack of gum. "That it for you?" I asked. He placed the items on the counter but didn't answer. As I scanned them, he leaned in just slightly and whispered, "You work alone tonight?" My chest tightened. I forced a laugh. "Nah, my co-worker's in the back doing inventory." A lie, but I needed him to think someone else was here. He stared at me, eyes narrowing slightly. Then the door chimed again. I turned. Another man walked in. This one older, stockier, wearing a brown jacket and scuffed work boots. His face was expressionless. The first guy gave him one single nod, like a signal. My heartbeat picked up. "Bathrooms open?" the older man asked. "Yeah, back left," I replied. But he didn't walk to the bathroom. He walked down the middle aisle, slowly, staring at each camera, like he was mapping them. Something about the air changed. The store suddenly felt smaller, quieter, heavier. The first man paid with cash, crumpled damp bills that smelled like mildew, and walked toward the exit but didn't leave. He just stood there by the door, waiting. My instinct screamed, "Do not go outside, do not look away, do not trust them." I grabbed my phone from beside the register and quietly texted Raina. "2 weird men in here, acting off, not sure." Before I could hit send, the older man reappeared from the aisle and asked, "Hey kid, can you help me with something real quick?" I swallowed. "With what?" He pointed toward the back refrigerators. "Think something's leaking back there." It wasn't. I had checked earlier. Everything was fine. My hands grew cold. My instinct told me, don't go, don't go, don't go. But before I could answer, the first man by the door spoke. Come on now, don't be rude. His tone wasn't a request, it was a command. Things unravel. I pretended to adjust something under the counter and discreetly hit the security panic button, a silent alarm that notifies police. But I knew response times at this hour could be anywhere from 5 minutes to 20. I needed to stall. Hold on, I said, grabbing a mop bucket. Let me check something first. The older man stared at me with a look that made my stomach twist. The first man leaned against the door as if guarding it. I stepped toward the back of the store, keeping distance, pretending to check behind the fridges. No leaks. The older man followed me slowly, stopping just a few feet away. Then he muttered, "Yeah, thought so. Must have dried up." He stepped closer. Too close. "Long shift you got, kid?" I tried to back up casually. 8 hours. "You look tired," he said. "Bet you wish you could go home." I swallowed. "I'm good." He smiled, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. "You should come with us," he whispered. My heart dropped. "What?" I said, trying to play dumb. "You heard me." I turned my head slightly, and that's when I saw it. The first man was now locking the front door. Click. I felt my breath catch in my throat. I wasn't alone with weird customers. I was trapped. The attempt. Everything happened fast, but also in slow motion. The older man reached toward my arm. "Don't make this hard," he murmured. Fight or flight kicked in, hard. I swung the mop bucket toward his legs and backed up fast. "Hey," he snapped, grabbing for me as he stumbled. The first man rushed from the door, lunging over the coffee counter. I sprinted around the chips aisle, slipping slightly on a wet spot someone had spilled earlier, my breath sharp and ragged. "Get him!" one of them yelled. I ran behind the counter, grabbing the only thing I had, a metal flashlight. Both men came around opposite sides of the aisle, trying to corner me. My lungs tightened. My mind raced. There was one more thing behind me. The employee exit door that led behind the building. I darted toward it. One man reached over the counter, grabbing my hoodie sleeve. I tore free and slammed into the door, shoving my shoulder into it until it burst open. Cold air hit me as I scrambled outside. I heard boots pounding behind me. "Grab him! Don't let him run! Cut him off!" I sprinted across the back lot, heart exploding inside my chest. Gravel crunched beneath my shoes as I rounded the dumpster. The alley was empty, dimly lit by a flickering street lamp. I didn't dare look back. I just ran. I heard a van door slam open. A vehicle engine roared to life. They were chasing me. The chase. The white SUV I had seen earlier peeled out from behind the store, headlights blinding, tires screeching over the pavement. "Hey," one of them shouted from the passenger window. "Stop running," like hell I would. My legs burned, but fear pushed me harder. I sprinted toward the residential street a block over, weaving between parked cars. The SUV sped after me, slowing down just enough to stay behind. They were hunting me. I dashed into a yard, hopped a fence, nearly slipping on a patch of frost-covered grass. Dogs barked from nearby houses. A porch light flipped on somewhere. The SUV couldn't follow through the yards, but they drove parallel along the street. I heard the driver yell, "He's cutting through! Swing around the next block." I had one chance. A friend of mine, Trevor, lived in this neighborhood, about 4 houses down. I sprinted down his street, lungs screaming, legs shaking. The SUV turned the corner at the far end, accelerating. "Almost there," I whispered to myself. I reached Trevor's porch and banged on the door like a madman. "Trev, open up, it's me! Open the damn door!" The SUV screeched to a stop down the street. 2 men got out. They started running. I slammed on the door again. "Trevor!" Finally, the porch light flicked on. "Who is it?" his muffled voice asked. "It's Jaden. Open the door right now." He unlocked it just as the men reached the yard,